Hey everyone, welcome to How You Go There. I'm Scott Montgomery, and I'm thrilled to kick off this series where we walk through the How You Go There workbook together.
And I'm your co host, Linda Misegadis. We're diving into the real stories and steps behind personal and professional growth.
Before you can chart out a new path, you have to understand the path that brought you here. And this series is all about slowing down, reflecting, and getting curious about your experiences. That's how you go there. Well, welcome back, Linda Misegadis. How are you today?
I am doing well, Scott Montgomery. I am dealing with a little bruising here, and so I had some gum surgery done a week ago, and it's just a residual bruising. Not that I got, not that I had a rough and tumble weekend or anything like that. So,
Did you get punched a couple
I did. I
knuckles
got
up?
punched a couple times. Yeah, that's right. Because that's who I am. I'm out there brawling. So,
I thought it was like new makeup so that you could really mew your jawline like
yeah,
the kids are doing
yeah, if
today.
I was trying to do, what do they call that? Contouring, and clearly don't
Yes.
know how to, and so I was doing the wrong thing. So
You could tell me it was a shadow, and I
I
would believe you.
could have just said,
Yes,
"Yeah," and then who's gonna question it, right? So,
that's right. Well, no matter
hi.
what, you look fresh and ready to go
Oh,
today.
thank
We've had a
you.
busy Memorial Day weekend. How was it? Did you enjoy yourself?
Yeah, we were pretty low key. We just did some stuff around the house because I'm definitely still healing, and so just kind of
Yeah,
taking it slow. But it was good. I mean, it was nice to just. It's always good to have a 3-day weekend. I'm a
always.
huge advocate for the 4-day work week. So.
There's books called The 4-Day Work Week.
Yes,
The
yes.
4-hour work week
The
would
four,
be
I
all
think,
right
yeah,
too.
exactly. The 4-hour work week would be good. I'm with you on that one too, for sure. So, well, I'm super excited about this episode because we're really talking about something that quietly shapes every decision we make and really every
Yes,
challenge we face and every story we tell ourselves, right? It's all about the mindset.
it is the self-care mindset chapter. And I just want to take a minute to explain the evolution of what's happening here that I'm finding really
Yeah.
exciting for my clients that I'm talking to. And that is how this all works together as a framework for our community of listeners, our community of clients. The book that was originally starting of all of this is sort of here's how you map these headers to stories about me and things that I experienced out in the real world, though. So I include those folks that I interacted with. But then the companion guide, and I'll do another, quick
Yes, I have my
promo,
handy dandy companion guide right here. So, yeah,
which
that's all
came
right.
second, is very much about awareness. And that's what we
Yeah.
talk about on the podcast right now. And people are listening and they're saying, okay, I have to set my habits and goals. I have to be involved with my relationships and my partnerships. Today, we're going to talk about mindset and self care. I said, the introductory piece is really nice, but what's exciting
Mhm.
is what's coming. And at the end of this year, I've got another volume 2 companion guide coming out that
How
is going to
exciting.
really embrace the tactical results of not just the awareness like we're talking about, but how do you embed it? How have you embedded it and what does that feel like? And really creating a collective cohesion around all three of these books and companion guides. So I just wanted to say that, we're doing introductory work here, but it's exciting to know that we're going to be moving forward towards the end of the year. And I'm going to call it the How You Go There framework.
Yeah, I love
And
it.
so, and that framework is being applied to my clients in New York City. It's being applied to school district clients. And I'm hoping that people that are paying attention to us today are liking and following, that maybe we get some
Yes,
academia folks. UVA has been looking at some of the work we've been doing.
absolutely. Yes.
University of Virginia. And I'm really hoping that this can get embraced at a level that helps the next generation in their
Mhm.
corporate search for self satisfaction as a result of success and not just the money that
Yes,
comes.
yeah,
So,
absolutely.
just want to take a minute to talk about that because it is really about mindset and self care that we bring this chapter up, right? The mindset of
Yeah,
understanding the framework is a nice little precursor, but what have you been doing lately in your mindset to prepare you for
yeah.
whatever? Like this open, yeah,
Right. No, it's such a good point. And, we talk a lot on this show about things like journeys and growth and leadership and setback and reinvention. But underneath all of that, it's how we think, right? So that's
right.
what you're talking about because two people could walk through the exact same experience and come out with a completely different outcome based on the lens they're looking through, the mindset, right? So
Right.
one could have a positive growth mindset, one could
Yep.
have a fixed mindset, and
Hmm.
really then you're going to have two drastically different outcomes based on that mindset. And what I love about what you're talking about with this next go round, it is such a necessary skill for younger people,
I believe so.
that are really kind of coming up in. And so I love the focus that you have around all of this because you can go to school, get all the degrees, you can have all of the education, academic components of it,
Or not, Linda,
or
Scott,
not,
or not go to school
or not go to
and
school
not get
and
this.
and
Yes.
still not get this. And so I think we put way too much focus in on like this thing. And really what
This
it comes down to is this fundamental framework that you're talking about that we've proven in the guests that we had when we first launched the podcast as we walked through the book. And then we had guests on who validated the framework because they all followed those successful people all followed a very similar framework to what you've laid out in the book and the companion guide. So,
Well, and even bigger still than you or I, or educated or not educated, the International Coaching Federation has taught as part of the curriculum through a George Mason or through a UVA, through the coursework. These skills are what you need to bring to be an effective coach. And then you certify with them as a coach. This entire framework has been built around the 8 competencies of the ICF. And so that's much bigger and much more proven and much more validatable, if that's a word,
yeah, no,
to
but
the
it's okay.
community. Yeah, well, we'll make it one.
Like
Hey,
our
maybe
friend Nick
Nick
Kittle, he
Kittle.
loves yeah,
Yes.
Nick we'll say, "Nick, we have a new word for you." So exactly, yeah.
Validatable.
Yep, that's it.
And so it's exciting for people to take and pause in what we're talking about. And I think it's really really nice for us to just take a beat and give folks sort of that reference point of what we're talking about, because we are here organically, naturally, just having dialogue around that framework and the
Right.
vision of that framework actually getting out into the world and views of those who digest it. Right. So
Yeah.
everyone's story is different. Like you said, everyone's got to go through the doors, but
Yep.
how they do that can really be subsidized with this kind of material, our conversations and experiences.
Yeah, I think so as well. And I think, the important thing I want to start out with everybody too is that when we talk about mindset, it's not about thinking positive. It's not
No,
just
no, no,
that,
no. Yeah.
it's like, well, having a
I'm happy.
positive
Ding.
attitude. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Like it's just if you have that go getter attitude, that'll solve all of your problems. But that's not really what it is. It's much deeper than that. It's really about whether you believe you're stuck where you are or that you're capable of being something more. And I think that's level setting with your mindset and really kind of figuring that out. And so I know we're going to dig into mindset in this episode. And the next episode, we're going to really focus in on self-care because those two actually go
Hmm.
hand in hand with each other,
100,
which is why you wrote
100%.
the book that way. Yeah, exactly. So,
Well, and you
uh,
tap into something really interesting that I want to share with the listeners too, is that there is a tolerance for continued growth mindset, right? So
yes.
taking all of this in, you can decide, pause, I'm happy where I'm at. I don't need to apply all these things. Or you can decide it's time for the change and I need to prepare myself for change. And these are the topics in which we believe and have been proven and are competencies in the ICF that need to be applied in order for you to make effective change for yourself.
Yes. Yes.
So it's
Yeah.
a constant hills and valleys on this. And it's now or not never, but now or later. And, you know,
Yes.
Carol Dweck wrote a really great book around the growth mindset. So I do
Yeah.
reference that material. And I do think we talk about how to apply it in our language, but
Hmm.
giving her full credit for growth mindset and giving her full credit for how that gets applied is really important because I know a lot of school districts and a lot of schools reference that.
Yep.
We are just saying we agree with it and we are moving along in that space with what we're talking about here today.
Well, and I think you bring up a really good point, Scott, and that what we're doing here is we're not trying to, none of these concepts or ideas, you didn't one day go, oh, I'm going to create all these concepts and ideas, right? These are all rooted and founded in a long-standing history, really. Most of this stuff has been around for a long time. There is a lot of
Decades.
research behind it, and so. But what we're trying to do is bring it into a more simplified way to apply it into your
Hmm.
everyday life, because sometimes that's why you don't do the hard work, right? Is
Right.
because the work itself feels really overwhelming. And so I think with what you've done really well with the way that you wrote the companion guide is to break it down into consumable components and to build the framing, right? So it's all about building the framework, because you may be at different stages of your life, and maybe you've got your habits and your goals worked out, but you're not so good at mindset and self-care. So maybe
Right.
that's where
Right.
you're focusing in, or maybe you're looking to make changes. So it's time to reevaluate those goals and those habits. And so it's a good opportunity to look at that. Maybe you're focused on leadership. There's different areas, or maybe you're just starting out and you kind of want to understand, how do you build your own framework around creating
Right.
that success for yourself. So,
Can't say that that's not the best way to describe the whole vision here, because these components, these chapters of the book are not, they're cohesive and they do stand alone. So
yes,
both can be true. And,
exactly.
the yes and is part of, where my firm does a yes and behavior in a growth mindset. It's kind of the same for this book. And you can choose to say, well, my habits, I feel like I'm in good check. I want to go to chapter 8 and work on mindset, or I want to go to chapter 6 and get a leadership coach, or whatever the chapters are and how they align. The details of these are rooted in what training I had as an ICF student at George Mason University and my own personal experiences. And you're absolutely right. Trying to create a way to make them digestible and
Yeah.
easy to parse out according to
Right.
where you are. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, and I think that's really what it, and that's actually a good setup for a mindset, because for those who maybe don't know, a fixed mindset would say, I'm either good at this or I'm not. It's kind of like an
Right.
either or, right? Or maybe
Hmm.
failure means I'm not capable. Or
Right.
if I
Not, yeah.
struggle, I must not belong here. And so that's really a fixed mindset. When we think about a growth mindset, it's more like, I can learn this, or this challenge is developing me, or maybe feedback helps me improve. That's more of that growth mindset. So, just to kind of level set with everybody a little bit, when we say fixed mindset versus growth mindset, what we're talking about when we're having these conversations. I'm curious though, Scott, for you personally, was there a moment when you noticed, like, whether your thinking was either limiting you or helping you? Like, was there that aha moment for you at some point? Like, is there a good example you have?
I think for me to recognize that it was time for me to tackle a growth mindset perspective. And again, no shame in the companion guide talking about fixed mindset and a growth mindset. It is how you think. And a growth mindset might say it's too hard, a fixed mindset, whereas a growth mindset might say, I haven't figured it out yet.
Yes, yes,
And one of the
exactly.
places to answer your question very directly was at home when I figured that out, in my
Okay.
marriage and with raising kids. And
Yeah.
so these sometimes do trickle into real life experiences that aren't related to work or deliverables, but rather satiating fulfillment in your family life. And to hear a perspective of a 17-year-old daughter against a 57-year-old businessman requires more of a growth mindset than it does I don't know what you're talking about and I'm right, or
Yes.
that's too hard, I'm not going to tackle it.
Mhm.
So I have found that most of a growth mindset that benefits me the most is has been introduced at home.
Right, right, yeah.
Further, and at work, one of my favorite experiences was when a client and I were starting to go toe to toe on some topics. We
Uh-huh.
both took a step back, and the client said to me, which introduced to me that how important this is. Wait, we are literally arguing over trying to be better and improve for our, say, students that we're going to get
Mhm,
the
mhm,
deliverable.
mhm.
What if we both recognize, rather than get aggravated, that we are of a growth mindset and neither of us are ill intended?
I like that.
And it shifted the whole perspective of the same doorway we were trying to walk through. We got through it faster. We got through more collaboratively. I was more satiated. And actually, it was a business opportunity. There was more money.
See,
And
that
so,
just shows the difference there, right?
100%. And I
Yeah.
think most would want to live in a place of opportunity and not closed doors, having to be right all the time.
Mhm.
And that doesn't mean you have to forego your convictions. It means you have
Right.
to communicate, which is another chapter in the companion guide, how to participate in a growth mindset with who you're communicating with or what your own path is.
With over a decade of experience, WorldGate LLC is your trusted partner in IT staffing and project management tailored for the public sector. We help government agencies and organizations navigate complex technology landscapes, implement effective workforce solutions, and build high-performing teams from strategic staffing to seamless systems integrations. We bring the experience and reliability to execute, empower, and exceed for our customers. Staffing? Check. Project management? Check. Public sector solutions? Check. Experience you can trust. Visit our website at www.worldgatellc.com today.
If you haven't been following the podcast, shame on you. But if you have, go back and listen to the previous 2 episodes where we talked about
Mhm.
communication, because I do
Yeah.
think that understanding your communication style and the person that you're communicating with communication style will also help you in that fixed mindset, growth mindset as well. Because sometimes we can find ourselves with a fixed mindset because we're not willing to budge on how we need to communicate with
Right.
either, with that person or in that situation. Like, you could have held firm and you could have continued down that path, and it could have been a
Argued
very
with the client,
limiting
lost the money, not happy, not
exactly.
satiated. The
Yeah.
opposite.
Yeah,
And I brought all
exactly.
that home with me that night. It would have
Yes,
been worse or better. And so
absolutely.
I have learned to practice the better.
Yeah, yeah, no,
You and
I
I
think
have
it's
been
a really
through all
good
this
example. Oh gosh,
in
yeah,
some of our
many
work
times.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah. We
absolutely.
just wanted to go toe to toe on something and you walked me off the ledge or you held the conviction and we just, you get through it.
You do. Yeah.
You have to physically make the effort to be in a growth mindset, not in a I
Yeah.
am right or it is too hard mindset.
I totally agree with you. Well, and I think that, that's where sometimes we confuse being experienced with having to know everything.
Yeah.
And so
Wait,
I
you
think
don't know
that,
everything? I
well,
thought
I
I thought we
do,
both
but
okay. We're done here. Drop the
we're
mic.
done. Drop the mic. That's right. Exactly. No, but I do think like a growth mindset does kind of require a level of humility, because you
Mhm.
have to be willing to be bad at something before you can become good at it. And I think that, that's also the balance in all of that, that a growth mindset, we don't know everything. I mean, all kidding aside, where there's always opportunities to learn and get better, but if I don't have an open mind, and maybe I do already think, well, I already know it all. I've already done it. Don't tell me to try it this way because I've already tried it that way. Then that's that fixed mindset, right? And that's going to prevent me from moving forward. So,
Yeah, the win is in the shift, not the deliverable. The
yes,
shift yields the deliverable. The shift yields the win, but the
yeah,
work is the shift. And once you
absolutely.
shift and once you embrace that shift as a success, it falls down all around you beautifully. All the walls
Yeah.
fall down. Yeah.
It really does. No, and one of the things that I've learned is that mindset shows up most clearly in self-talk. I don't know if you've noticed that yourself, a little bit, like it's what's happening when nobody else is listening, like when you're
Yeah.
just talking to yourself, kind of like, well, what do we tell ourselves after we've maybe failed at something? Or how do high achievers sometimes trap themselves mentally because you kind of put that pressure on yourself, and then
Mhm.
then you get stuck. And also it's why self-awareness is so important in this whole component of the fixed versus
I'd be
growth
curious your
mindset,
self-talk.
right?
Give me an example if you can think of one where you were able to shift because you have you know, we talk often about we are man and woman and we are two voices, same conviction. You have different perspectives and realities than I would. And I
Yeah.
bet you there is a ton of examples in here that often I hear from women, executive women, around imposter syndrome, around being dismissed,
Oh,
around
yeah.
chauvinism, around all of that. And I wonder if there isn't an example that comes to mind for our audience today, for you especially,
Yeah.
with all those parameters around it, maybe or not, that comes up
Yeah.
in a place where you yielded the benefit of a growth mindset.
Well, I think when I have had a couple of those, and a lot of it is kind of what you're talking about there a little bit with the imposter syndrome side of it, but also feeling like not speaking up. So I
Mm.
would oftentimes find myself in situations where I'm like, I wouldn't say what I was really feeling about a situation for fear of maybe how it would be received. Oh, maybe Linda's being a know-it-all, or
Mm.
maybe Linda needs to know her place, like, this is not the appropriate, place for her. And so what I really had to kind of have that self-talk there is to recognize that, one, if kinda to your point, if the shoe was on the other foot, if it was a man in the same situation, would he be apologizing for speaking up and saying what he thought? No, he wouldn't. And so what I have recognized, though, it's in how I do that, right? Because when I
Mm.
first started doing it, speaking up more, I found myself coming across way too aggressively, and so and I was being aggressive, like, it wasn't. And so I was like, "Well, I'm not being received in the right way there because they are looking at me, they're going, 'Gosh, she's kinda being a jerk,'" you know?
Right.
And so, taking that and saying, "Okay, well, how can I turn that into being assertive, not aggressive, but
Mhm.
also not coming across as a know-it-all or as a, like I'm so anxious to make my point that I'm dismissive of everybody else." It's learning
Mm.
how, and it goes to the communication style, right? Reading the
Sure.
room, understanding my audience, applying my communication style there. And I'll tell you, it has changed quite a bit. My confidence is much greater in those conversations now, in being able to say what I wanna say and then not feeling bad about it, because that was the other thing I would do to myself for
Oh,
self-talk, is
wow.
afterwards I'd be like, "Oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that. What are they gonna think about the situation?" Or maybe I asked for too much, maybe I was pressing too hard. Like, I was going through all of those, and it would consume me. Like,
Yeah.
I'd sleep on it, I'd talk to my husband about it, like, it was consuming me,
Wow.
and I'm like, and I guarantee you that in most situations,
No one else is
maybe
thinking about
no
it.
one else is thinking about it. And so, that was something that I've really been working on. I've certainly not mastered it by any means, but I'm trying to get better at that approach, and then not questioning myself after I do it. So if I do it, stand firm in my conviction and be okay with the decisions that I made
So
around it.
that sounds like you've really emphasized the communication piece of it, but where's the pivot in the growth mindset? The fact that you even spoke up.
Yeah.
When did you start to feel empowered about not necessarily how you did it, but that you would do it at all?
It's kind of, funny. I think that a big pivotal moment for me has just been in the last couple of years where I'm like, not so much like, what do I have to lose, but it is a little bit more of throwing caution to the wind and going, "You know what, Linda? You're smart, you're capable, you've, accomplished a lot in your life. Why are you creating all this self-doubt for yourself? You
Sure.
need to have a growth mindset, because if you want to be viewed differently, then you need to
Mhm.
present differently, and so that means that, stand in your conviction, come with, information, be firm in your conversation, and then stand behind it." And so that was a big part of it, like, for me to change and grow a little bit and not be stuck almost like that shy, timid
Mhm.
person, like, that wallflower that I had always been
Mhm.
in the past, and
Mhm.
standing
Mhm.
on the sidelines, watching, having a lot of thoughts about it, but not doing anything about it, but then being mad because nothing was changing. Well, I could either
Right.
be a part of the solution, or I could stand back and just complain about what was happening around me. And I think the last couple of years, I've just made a real shift in my mind, in that if I can continue to complain about something and be frustrated by it, or I can do something to try to change it, and it's all in how I approach it, right? So,
Yeah, you just said something really powerful around the idea if I can do something to change it, make an impact. And that is the growth mindset. Make an impact, do something that changes it and not make it about you or
yeah.
how you communicate it, because that was last week, but rather today, how are we shifting our mindset to be a contributor for a greater outcome? And
Yes.
that's a really nice analogy about being a wallflower because I knew you as one. And
Yeah.
then the shift that you've decided to make going down to the room to network and working within your own awareness. Remember, we looked
Yes.
at habits and goals and
Yep.
mindset. Self care is coming next week, but knowing you don't need to be there for 4 hours depleting your introvert
Exactly.
either.
Exactly,
So
yes.
it's all intertwined and it's all very manageable. But I like your story a lot around the idea that you've made the decision to make an impact. And how does that drive a success? Is there a way that you can put a reference around any of the examples you just gave that said, and the outcome was better for X?
Exactly, and I think that's the key point. And so before we leave our guests, I have 3 takeaways for all of our
Yes.
listeners
I love
today.
your takeaways. Let's do them.
So, takeaway number 1, I want you to pay attention to your self-talk. Your words shape your reality more than you realize. So, try to shift away from things like "I can't," maybe do "I'm learning." So try to just make some little shifts in that type of behavior with self-talk. The other one I would say is stop viewing setbacks as verdicts. It's just feedback data and part of growth. So if somebody says to you today, um, I didn't that work was not what I wanted it to be, or that presentation wasn't as strong as I was expecting. That's not failure. That's feedback. It's an opportunity for you to grow, to get better. So ask questions and then go and rework what you have to and then come back and present it again. So don't take those setbacks as verdicts. And then takeaway number 3, ask yourself, what would change if I believed I could learn my way through this. So if I was
Hmm.
in this
Hmm.
situation and I could learn my way through it, what would change? And I think, those are just some 3 key takeaways I would have for our listeners today.
It's got some tentacles, and I think it's a great topic. And I think we've built up beautifully to it through all the chapters and the chapters that we have left to cover, and
Yeah.
just the concepts in general. So, Linda, as always, I love your perspective. I appreciate your partnering in this program and what we're doing with this framework. And I know her resources. We probably need to get more of that involved in this somehow and
Yeah.
sort of map some of these good news stories to that audience as well. But thank you for everything. And I'm looking forward to next week where we get a little bit more into the self care side of mindset, which
Which
I'm going
is
to,
your favorite part.
yeah. I'm going to go
Of
find some
all of
stories
the
this week.
chapters. Yes, that's right, exactly. No, I think that it's really good. And I think, just this conversation really comes down to one thing is that mindset determines how we move through the world. And I
Mhm.
think, it's not because the challenges are gonna disappear. So a growth
Nope.
mindset doesn't mean that all of a sudden you don't have
Challenges are the
challenges.
gifts.
Oh, they are, and then not because life suddenly becomes easier or because the lens changes. I think that both of us have learned that growth starts the moment you stop seeing yourself as finished. You're never finished. We're always growing, we're always learning, there's always more things to do in life, so
So true. So like, follow, listen, plug in, buy the book,
yes.
www.howyougothere.com. Also, www.howyougothere.com spells the same.
Yes.
And hopefully, we'll see you guys next week.